This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey, you're listening to Girl Hustle with Lee and Chelsea. We are two girls making our way in sales and entrepreneurship.
We set out to make this podcast after entering our late 20s and realizing we were hitting a wall and felt like our lives and careers were stagnant. After expressing this feeling to countless other women, we realized we weren't alone.
So each week we're bringing you real conversations with real people that are authentic, realistic, and relatable in hopes that you can grow into the best version of yourself. So strap in and let's hustle.
Hello, everyone.
Hi!
Friends of the pod.
Friends, family.
Welcome to another amazing episode of Girl Hustle Podcast. I'm Lee.
And I'm Chelsea.
Here we are.
Doing the thing.
We hope you're having an awesome Thursday so far. We hope you just had a super productive week and that you have beautiful plans this weekend and that you are feeling good and are in a nice headspace to listen to what we got going. And if you're not in a good headspace, we hope that this interview that we had today puts you in a good headspace because that's what it did for us.
Yes, it did.
And so we were so stoked that we got to speak to this person. I was super fangirling, and I don't care to admit it. I am a U of L alum, and I'm a Louisville girl through and through. And so today on the pod, we got to talk to the one and only local celeb, Louisville native athlete extraordinaire, Christi Mack.
Yes.
Yes, queen.
We were so excited when she agreed to come on. I was like,
I text my husband and just was like, Shane, you have no idea who just said that she would come on our pod. And so
exciting.
I think from that, like, we were so hyped and like just had, I felt like nervous before this, but then it's like, she literally sent us a text this morning. This is just a very small, like, behind-the-scenes, like, look of what this human being is really like. Mm-hmm. She, like, sent us a text this morning before the interview and was like, hey, is it cool if I just wear comfy clothes? It's just like, yes.
Absolutely.
Like, she, from interviewing her, and you guys will feel this and you'll hear this in the interview, it was so refreshing and wonderful to meet someone so genuine, humble, down-to-earth, just has an incredible mentality, like an incredible family person, like an awesome mom.
Well, and as an outsider, there is something, and I'll say it, and I've said it, and I'll continue to say it, there's something in the water out here with all you freaks in Louisville and your sports.
Sorry. That's how we are.
Like, everyone here is so passionate about Louisville, loves the sports, everything. She is low-key a celebrity and has, and I mean, as a person from the outside coming into Louisville, you would think, you know, big house, big name, big everything.
It's like everyone in Louisville knows who Chris Mack, her husband, is.
Yeah,
like,
and
everyone.
they know who she is because she has a basketball reputation of her own.
Yeah.
And she has everything that you would maybe think maybe she'd be, like, hoity-toity or maybe...
Yeah, like...
Whatever.
Extra. You know?
Yeah, but, girl, she's not.
She is so low-key. And
just humble, kind, sweet.
Ugh. It was just such a joy to get to, like, hang out with her and just be in her presence for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was great. It was very refreshing. Very grounding, you know?
Yes.
I felt that the whole time.
And she's always giving back to the community, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
And just what she shared from her experiences in sports and what she's pulled from that and being a mom and being a teen mom and...
Yeah. We just thought that it'd be really valuable to have... especially like an athlete's perspective, because I mean, like, I love sports a lot, but I was not an athlete growing up. You know, I don't think you were, and you know, we weren't like collegiate level athletes, but I've always been so interested in like the athlete mentality and how you can apply that to, you know, your work as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as, you know, in life and not just business, and like your overall mental health and wellness. I think that it's really interesting just to, like, see, because, oh, God, like, being an athlete, it just seems so hard.
And it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
and
work.
And dedication.
Oh, you just have to be so yes.
Well, and to be in the public's eye so much, like they
oh,
are.
for sure. For them, absolutely.
But this family is so humble, and at the end of the day, their number one priority is family.
I know.
It's so great.
It's so great. And I honestly feel like after we interviewed her, I genuinely feel like I know Chris
Tell them
Mack.
what you asked me. Life coach.
Oh my gosh. After she left today, I looked at Chelsea and I was like, so you know how some people hire like life coaches? I just want to hire her to be my wife coach. Like, teach me to be a ride or die and to be such a just wonderful
For all my
person.
HGTV fans out there, it's like Chip and Joanna.
Yes.
In real life.
I don't know what that is, but I know that people would agree with you.
They would.
They would.
I feel very confident in that assumption. Yes, they would.
Of course. But yeah, without further ado, we will let you guys listen to the interview. And
lots of golden nuggets.
So many golden nuggets. Ugh, this will be... You'll get to feeling great about your day after this.
Yeah.
So, anyways, here's our interview with the one, the only, Christi Mack.
Enjoy! Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another week's episode of Girl Hustle. We have a Louisville legend and native.
Yes.
Miss Christi Mack is sitting with us here today.
Woo-woo. Thanks for coming on the pod.
Thanks for having me. I think native's probably better than legend.
Native legend.
Right.
Local celeb, man.
Everybody
Okay.
knows. It's
Right.
fine. She's very humble, so.
Definitely.
But yes, so we have her with us today, and we are going to just take a dive into some of the things that you do and love.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Yay, thank you. So, for people who don't know, I mean, obviously people probably know you primarily because you are Chris Mack's wife, the head coach of U of L basketball. So what people might not know is you also are kind of like a basketball legend here in Louisville. You played at Holy Cross. You were a badass there. You're a Hall of Famer at the University of Dayton. So, we Googled you. We know.
I can tell.
We know it's
a little creepy. Little creepy.
Super, yeah.
We know everything about
Your
you.
astrological sign is a Gemini. No, we don't know that.
Yeah, that's not right.
Okay, cool. But we kind of wanted to start this off and just kind of talk about, your experience of being a female athlete, kind of growing up in basketball and how that's, affected you. Why did you choose basketball out of everything? And just kind of get to know your humble beginnings.
Well, first of all, I think it's really cool, or it's been really cool to come back home. Because I think when you move away from home, you kind of move away from a little bit who you were, who you grew up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You lose that a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's been neat to kind of make those connections and reconnect with people that really I had lived away from Louisville for, over 20 years. And so, and plus when you start having kids, let's be honest, it becomes about them and less about, who you were. So, I don't think our girls really cared that I was a good basketball player. They were more excited that, Dad was the basketball coach, that kind of stuff. But it's been neat to make those connections since we've moved back home.
Nice.
That's really cool.
That's amazing. Now, we were talking earlier, and you said that you were into dance and both dance and basketball. And for me, I find that so awesome and so fascinating. So growing up, were you always really active? Did you always have to go and do team-oriented sports?
Yeah, I think my parents probably put me in dance starting at age 3 or 4, and my mom still tells the funny story that I cried the first, few weeks, which I think most kids do at dance.
For sure.
Don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But for me, it was something that I was fortunate. I felt like it really connected me to sports in a sense of just my coordination, my balance, just keeping my body healthy, those kind of things. And I danced all the way up until I left for college. So 14 years, I danced at a studio called Kathy Todd Studio. And I have made that connection.
I love Kathy Todd.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I'm so obsessed with her. Okay.
So she's into acting now. And so I just went and saw her not too long ago. And her daughter acts. So the studio itself is still there. She is no longer running it.
Okay.
Actually, the girl that took over for Kathy danced with me for years, 9 years.
That's so funny.
But yeah, I was lucky because, first of all, it wasn't as intense then. Mm-hmm. Nothing was. No sport was as intense as it is now.
Yeah.
And so she would like let me come in at 8 or 9 o'clock at night after my basketball practice or volleyball practice and do my private lesson. And I'd leave there sometimes 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday night. But I loved it. I loved it. I'm sad that my girls never really, I mean, they took it for a couple years, but they never really got into it like I was.
Right.
Of course, now they do all these TikTok videos and all this stuff. And they're actually really good dancers. I mean, Chris and I we've got pretty good rhythm, I would like to say. So our girls are really good dancers. I'm always like, I'm going to sign you up for dance. And
that's hilarious.
But they're not buying it.
Yeah. Oh, well. You mentioned that sports have kind of changed from being not as intense to as intense now. How do you, I guess, like, could you be more, elaborate on that a little more and, like, maybe why you think it's changed?
Yeah, I think, sadly it's part of the keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing of, like, if you don't play year round, you're not going to be as good as this other kid that does. And, Chris and I guess because we both played at a pretty high level, we kind of see the importance of them playing multiple sports. And so we tell our kids we want them to play as many sports as possible for as long as they can. Yeah. I mean, we have a freshman at Sacred Heart that plays basketball and volleyball, and it's tough. And she's also very academically oriented. I mean, she loves school. If we made her choose school or sports, she would choose school, and I think that's great.
That's awesome.
But she's a good little athlete, and I think it's good for her. It's a good kind of balance in her life to not take one thing too serious. I always say I wasn't even the best basketball player on my freshman team at Holy Cross. I know I wasn't. And I think that's probably what challenged me and made me work harder to get better. Yeah. And so we're constantly telling our kids, there's other people out there that are working hard, that are better, and that's who challenges you. That's who should challenge you, if you really want that. Yeah. But I just think it's good for their bodies in general, their muscles, to play different sports. And
absolutely.
In today's, time, it's hard. Kids are choosing in 7th and 8th grade, what sport they're going to play year round, and then they don't get a break from that sport.
Yeah.
And we've been fortunate up to this point that the people who are around, the coaches they've had, truly understand the benefits of playing multiple sports, and they've helped us make it work so far. So we're going to let them do it as long as they can.
That's good. I mean, one of the things that you said was there's always someone better. How do you, even in like the sales world, business world, college, whatever, there's always someone better, or maybe you're the best and someone beats you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that with the players, and then you have your kids, and then your own where you were at. How would you guide somebody with that? Like, there's always going to be someone better. This is how you can overcome that. Or someone's coming up on your turf.
Right. I just think it's reality. I think, we've always been pretty upfront and honest with our kids. I think it's something that people admire about Chris with his players, and that, just truth and honesty. Yeah. And, I think it really can define you. It can, our kids can choose whether they want to take that information and work harder, or choose a different route, whatever it is. But I think it can truly define a person
Heck yeah.
into how hard they want something. I mean, there are professional athletes that, with the recent Kobe Bryant thing, we're starting to hear of, like, he was up at 4 a.m. working and doing all these things. It's like he's the best of the best, and he was still doing those things. Yeah. And there's a reason he got that good. And we just, it's not a way for us to push our kids like, hey, there's somebody out there working harder. It's just reality. Like, no, you got cut because you weren't as good as that kid.
I love that.
And it's, like, now you have the choice whether you want to work hard enough to be better than them or challenge them, or and I think our girls are pretty good because they've been around Chris coaching and us playing, and to understand that this world's competitive, and the things that they have to do to get to that level. And sometimes, your best isn't, it's good enough to be good, but it's, there are people better than
That's
you
a
out
really
there.
valuable lesson too, because
really
a lot of times, I mean, I get the whole like participation trophy, make them feel good, but in life, like, that's not real.
Yeah.
It's just not real. Like, it sucks, but it just isn't. And I think that's one of the, like, the amazing things that you're telling them, like, you're good, but someone is better, and that's okay, and find what you're the best at.
And it's hard as a parent. I mean, I feel like it's harder even as a parent than when maybe I experienced it as a kid. I mean, you got cut because they're not playing favorites. That kid was better than you.
Yeah.
What did they do to get there, and what do you have to do to get there, kind of thing. And that's our world. I mean, that's going to happen to them when they get a job. Yeah, we're constantly telling them, like, Chris always says he doesn't want to coach the coach because, he's a coach himself and he gets judged on every decision he makes. And he tells the girls all the time, we have 14 and 13, so freshman and 8th grader, you're not always going to like your boss when you get older. You're not always going to like the teacher. So, I mean, you've got to find a way to work through it and, make yourself better because of it. So
I love that. I've always loved the parallels between, like, an athlete mentality and them, transferring that mentality over to real life. And I think that I really wish that I was better at sports and I would have stayed in sports, because I think that, especially from a young age, you just learn so many valuable lessons. It was like working as a team, overcoming failures. Like, I never experienced, like, making it all the way to, like, a championship game and then, like, losing. Like, I've never like experienced that failure. So I feel like I've, like, mentally had to, like, work double hard, because it's like, if I fail, it's like something I've never experienced before. And so it's just, I think that being an athlete kind of prepares you for real life.
Yeah.
And so with that, what do you think are, like, the best, like, life lessons that you've learned being an athlete and growing up in sports?
I would say probably I've learned more being a mom or a coach's wife, because I think when we're kids, we're kind of invincible. You kind of just right? Like, I don't remember things being crazy hard when I was a kid. Like, you just move on to the next thing,
right?
And your parents sometimes take the hits for you, so to speak.
It's crazy we don't realize that they did it until, like, later.
Oh my gosh.
Like, thanks, Mom. Sorry. I totally took you for granted.
I guess I just see it, differently now, being a mom and I watch Chris's play. I learn a lot from watching his team. When I hear people in the stands that are yelling things, I have to quickly bite my tongue, because there's things that I know.
They're kind of like your adopted kids, I guess.
They are. And, like, I know things, whether it's about their family or something they've experienced or the loss of someone. We've had years, not necessarily here at Louisville, but, even at Xavier, where someone hours before a game has found out they lost a loved one. But yet they step on that floor and they play a game. And it's a different type of emotion. And, I do have to bite my tongue, because it's like, I know what these fans don't know, that these kids are out here giving it their all. They're not trying to miss free throws. They're not, they're not doing that stuff. They're wanting to win more than anyone. And so I kind of feel like I see it in a different way. And you're right, they are my kids. I've always said that, like, but it's an unfair type of thing, because I get to know them for 2, 3, 4 years. Like, I always get really sad when like, Chris takes grad transfers, because I'm like, we only get them for a year. Like, to get to know that kid for a year, and, like, you just fall in love with them. You fall in love with their story, their background, and it's just, and then it's like, okay, then they're gone. And we do keep in touch with a lot of players that Chris has coached, and it's really neat to have that connection, and watch them kind of grow up and go on to their next thing. But I just think, my advice to fans is that we all need to take, and I'm one of them, we need to take a step back and a deep breath and realize that these are 18 to 22-year-old kids that experience the same type of things we do.
That are
the same stresses, the same losses. Yeah. They're up studying for tests. They're doing homework. They're doing the same things that we all struggled with when we were in school.
Right.
And so I feel fortunate to have that view of it, to have played the sport. And, like, I kind of feel like I was a pretty good basketball player. And I remember my freshman year, I was a horrible free throw shooter. After shooting, like, high 80%, 8% or something like in high school. And I got to freshman year of college, and it's a different game. It's faster. It's more physical.
Yeah.
You're tired. You're like, your time is consumed with everything, with classes and, tutors and all this kind of stuff. And I just think we forget that they're not just stepping on a court to play basketball for all these fans, and that's their life.
Right.
They have other things going on that, I know I went on a rant there,
No, that was
but
wonderful.
Ranted
I'm so
out.
happy you did that.
I know.
I was like, yes.
yes, I know. But I think like sometimes we need to step back and just realize that they're kids.
Yeah.
They experience all the same things that we do.
I will say one thing, because I'm from Wyoming, so there's like something in the water out here. You're all sports, like y'all are crazy.
Well, Louisville in itself is different because Louisville is the sport here.
Yeah,
like we
it
came
is.
from Xavier, where the Bengals are there, the Reds are there,
Right.
Yeah.
UC's there. There's other teams, NKU, Dayton. They're all around that area, and it's like here, it's Louisville.
Yep.
And it's awesome because fans are really passionate, and I know that's always been something that's important to Chris, that he wanted to come to a school where basketball is important and that it means something to the fans, because like that makes him work harder. Like he's he's out here working for them, for the city, for these players, and but it's a different, because you don't have that everywhere.
No. Well, when they come out, I was blown away. So, oh my gosh, dating a Kentucky boy, right? On our first date, he was showing me like infomercials of Kentucky. Like people out here in Louisville love Louisville. So weird.
We love Louisville so
Weird.
hard.
He's
Yep.
like, this is so awesome. I love Louisville. And he'd show me like the intros to games, and they're like celebrities.
Yes, they are.
They're so
They're
intense.
celebrities. So, I mean, you see it from a different perspective. You're like the mama team lady, whatever your name is, house mom. I don't know what they call you, but that's what you
Mrs.
are.
Mack.
Mrs. Mack.
And I'm always like, oh, that's my mother-in-law. Can you just call me
Yeah,
Christy?
can you not?
See, I think Mama Mac is what they should call you.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
But like you see that side of it. So
Yeah.
what's like how I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask this question. Like, do you have to help them? Like, hey, this is like this whole fame side and the school side, and you're young, you have all this. Like, how do you deal with that, or how does your husband, or do you help with that? Because that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure.
I don't. They have enough people around them, whether it's like, an academic advisor, they have a, strength coach, a trainer. All those people are giving them guidance that will live with them the rest of their lives. I mean, they're walking through these 4 years of college, and I mean, I happen to think my husband's a really good guy, and I think he's a good role model, and I'm hoping that they're learning more things in basketball from him.
Yeah.
And whether it's, just the fact that we're very family oriented and we've always been that way. It's kind of, like, because people have asked us, like, they've asked my husband a ton, how do you balance work? You don't. And that's the reality of it. And if he tries to say that he balances it, it's a lie. It's impossible. You just can't do it. Like, I learned a long time ago that his job is number one, but our family is intertwined in that. And it's not just me and the kids. It's my parents. It's Chris's parents. It's our close group of friends. I mean, this last weekend at the Virginia game, we had 74 people here at the game. Yeah, and part of that's because, Chris is from Cincinnati and I'm from here, and so we have ticket requests like crazy. And we want to be able to have those people around, because it's the people that truly know us. It's the people we feel most comfortable around. The people who have supported us in this entire journey of Chris coaching. And so I just try to be, I don't even want to say real in front of the players, but like they don't come to me for guidance. I mean, they're not doing that. I mean, all these kids are fortunate enough to have wonderful parents, and siblings that they can rely on for that type of stuff. But I think it is important for these kids to see us interact as a family.
Yeah.
Because that's going to teach them lessons when they, graduate and go on and have families of their own.
I have a favorite story about your husband.
Oh, okay.
So my husband, him and his brothers own a Fast Signs franchise, and they do the signs for the Yum Center.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was, it was like when he first started, there was a, I don't know if you want to call it like a conference or something, but all of the vendors or people that put a lot of money into it, they were there, and he was talking. And so they had these, I'll have to give you one, we have some in the basement, but they're like these chrome red, like almost like a Yeti tumbler mug or whatever. And a lot of the coaches in the past are, I mean, not to say anything bad about them, but they're a little bit snooty, if that's the right. I'm like,
we're here to talk crap about people in the past.
I know, I mean, but I don't mean that, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just some girl, whatever. And he comes up and he's like, oh, can I have one of those? And they were for him. They were for everybody. And he's like, and my husband's like, well, yeah. He's like, they're for free? And we're like, yeah, like you can have it. And I just loved how like humble he was and like how kind he was, and he talked to everybody, and it was like, he is so cool. And I just love how like the genuine like humbleness of him. We were just like, from that moment, we were big Chris Mack fans.
Oh, good. Well, I'm always amazed. He knows everyone's name that like works at the and then at the the Kieber Center where his office is. I've always been impressed with, because I feel like I have like short-term memory. And then he'd be like, oh, that's Joe. He's the guy that lifts the gate up when I'm like, what?
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's not so much like in the past they were snooty or anything, but the fact that he just knows,
like, attention to detail. I'm just like
he does
about other human beings.
That's like I think that's just per person. Like some people have that, some people don't. And Chris does. He's he's really good because he always gets on. He's like, I need a cheat sheet when he goes for him when we go to volleyball tournaments, because obviously I travel more. Both the girls play club volleyball, and I'm constantly traveling, so I know a lot of the parents' names. He's like, I need a cheat sheet because like he's not there as often.
That's awesome.
And he feels like he's just kind of coming and going, and so he hates that he doesn't know everyone's name.
That's so cool.
And it's almost unfair because they all know his name.
Yeah. That's understandable.
He's like, I hate that. They come up and say, hey Chris, or hey coach, and it's like, ugh.
The key there is like, hey girl.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Looking good.
Yeah.
It just blew me away because I mean I haven't had a lot of interactions with coaches, but you would think, especially since like they're like low key celebrities here in Louisville, to be like, can I have one of those? I just wouldn't expect that. So it was awesome. I thought it was so cool.
People kept telling us, "Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Like you're going to be it in Louisville and whatever." And we didn't quite get it. And we were like, we're still going to do our normal, and we do. Like we go to Roosters after games, and we go, wherever it is. I mean, wherever it is we want to eat. And I think people give us our space and our privacy. And I think a lot of that has to do with they see that we're pretty normal. Chris has always been big on Twitter. And it's not even for show. He's really funny. Like he is.
He really is funny.
It really is funny.
I'm a big Twitter person, and I follow him. He really is hilarious.
Yeah. Sometimes he throws me under the bus. Well, quite often. I'm always like, I didn't even stop. But I think the more that people see that side of us, they become a little less curious about, because I think they see that we're pretty normal and probably pretty boring.
Boring's good.
Boring is totally good.
We like really beg for those nights where, like, he texted me this morning. He was like, are we just hanging at home tonight? We get excited about that. And it's like, I'm like, Lainey's got basketball and volleyball. And he's like, never mind. So it's like, we kind of like yearn for those kind of nights, but we don't get them, too often. But when we do, we sure hold on to them. So
for sure. Have you ever had like an awkward like public fan interaction? Because you kind of touched on like Louisville is, I think we're very protective. So like if we see like if I saw you all out in public and I'd never met you before, I'd be like, no, don't bother them. Like, you can't touch them.
No,
like,
people honestly they've been great.
That's great.
And I would say Chris would rather someone come up and start talking to him, because occasionally there's been people that come up and they're like, they kind of like just sit there and stare. Because it's just funny to think that they're nervous around him, but he's more than happy to take a picture, sign something. And
he's so nice.
And our kids are so used to it that it doesn't even faze them. It was funny. Chris I think it was last week. It might have been 2 weeks ago. It was Catholic Schools Week, and so Chris agreed to go to Sacred Heart and hand out donuts in the morning. And awesome. Terry Miners was there, and a couple other dads. And Lainey, our oldest, said she was walking through the hallway and there were a bunch of girls kind of giggling like, did you see the Louisville men's basketball coach was handing out donuts? And she just like, she giggles because she's like, Mom, she's like, I don't tell people, like who my dad is. Like, I don't think even most people know.
Yeah.
She's like, I just thought it was so funny that people thought it was like really cool that Dad was there because it's Dad to her. It's Dad first to her. And so she just thought that was pretty funny.
That's
I
amazing.
love that.
That's so great. What do you think makes you guys such a good team together?
Our parents. I've always said that. We're very fortunate that I should know this, but I want to say Chris's parents have been married for 50 years. Wow. My parents, I think, are my brother's 43, so I think they're like 45 years. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And just good families, a good group of people. I think, it truly is who you surround yourself with.
Yep.
And we're fortunate that the people we're kind of stuck surrounding ourselves with, family, that we've got good ones. Chris's mom, she worked for the Archdiocese in Cincinnati and ran the pre-Cana classes, which are the classes that you take before you get married in the Catholic Church.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, so she's always a good guide to, if we're ever having an argument or whatever it is, like, she's my go-to.
That's awesome. Your own person.
Which is nice to have that relationship with my mother-in-law.
That's amazing.
And then my parents, they're just so down to earth. They always have. And my dad travels with Chris and the team a lot. And so we're just lucky to have good people around us.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
That's awesome. So kind of going back to your days as basketball, when did you know that you were ready to move on? Because I feel like that's such a big part of, at that point in your life, that was a huge part of your identity, right?
Yeah.
And when do you know to like, okay, I'm done?
Well, I think especially with, women's basketball, although it's gotten, I don't want to say much easier, but there's more opportunity, to go on with the WNBA and that kind of stuff. I mean, men's basketball has always had maybe a greater opportunity. Men's sports has, to play professional and to make a living that way.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like I kind of knew in college, like, hey, I'm going to do this thing in college. It's paying my way for an education. And if anything, it kind of guided me into what I wanted to do when I got out of college.
Which was?
Which was coach and broadcast. And I got to do that for 1 or 2 years. And then I met my husband. We got married and started having kids. And now I'm a mom.
Yeah.
And so I just knew pretty early on. I want to say I coached the first maybe 6 or 7 years of our marriage.
Wow.
But it became, too hard for both of us to do it. We would have had to hire a nanny, and we've never had one. And I didn't want someone else raising our kids.
Yeah.
I didn't want to like give up those years. And plus, I get spoiled in the sense that I get to enjoy what Chris does. And if I would have worked full time and had a nanny, I wouldn't have got to enjoy, the stuff that he gets to do and stuff. So, we pull the kids out of school sometimes to go on trips with him.
That's fun.
Our 8th grader went to Ireland last year for literally 36 hours.
Oh, wow.
They flew over there, stayed one night, and came back to visit a recruit's mom. And then both of our girls have been to California for like a day trip. And I don't envy them on those day trips because I'm like, if I'm going to Ireland or California, I'm going for a week.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I'm not jumping on a plane. Yeah, it
than
does.
this.
Yeah. So I'm glad to stay back with our 5-year-old on that one.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think I knew going into college what the purpose of basketball was going to give me. And I'm constantly reminding my kids, my girls of that, that, I really don't remember wins and losses in high school or college. I remember the 2 state championships we won, but I remember the teammates I had, and I've been able to reconnect with those girls, you know, in the past year and a half. And those were like the memories that I hold on to. And those are the things that I think you get from the opportunity of playing basketball. Like, I remember signing autographs after college games, and like those girls are hitting me on Facebook now. They're like, you know, in their late 20s, and I'm like, they followed me playing basketball. And so those are the times when I see like those were the kids looking up to me, and those were the connections I made and the positive impact I had on people. So I enjoy those moments.
Well, you're continuing the positive impact. You guys have a foundation, don't you?
We do.
That's really cool.
We started it, I would say, probably about 5 years ago. And, you know, certainly the city of Louisville and the community has really kind of jumped on board with us, and the support has been just amazing. You know, Xavier is just a smaller school, and so when we came to Louisville, there were more people that were ready to like jump on board. And we've been very fortunate to have members of our executive board here that are really tied into the community. They know the needs of the community. They know the schools that are most at risk, and they're very passionate about the same things that we are with giving these kids experiences that, you know, I still remember the day driving up to Chris's press conference and seeing the Yum Center and looking at it in a different way, knowing that there are kids in the city of Louisville, even adults, that will drive by or walk by that arena that will never step foot in that place. And it's gorgeous. It's like an NBA arena.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so something that was really important to Chris was game day experience. So we started that this year, where we allowed 20 kids and their mentor or their parent to come to a game, and they got to meet Chris an hour before the game. They got an autographed basketball. They got to sit in the lower level, and like they're getting to watch kids like Dwayne Sutton, David Johnson, that did the same thing that these kids are doing, that, you know, went to a public school here in the city of Louisville, and that, you know, really had to work their way to get, you know, to earn that scholarship. And so I think for these kids, they see kids like that sat in the same seats that they did, and that it worked out for them, that they worked hard to get there. And so that's been something really important to us. We do a back to school program. We teamed up with Kroger and Adidas, and gave kids all their school supplies and snacks and lunchbox, and they got to meet Chris, and our kids came and took, you know, part in that. And it's really important. It's getting harder as our kids get older, but you know, twofold, the reason we started this foundation to go back was for 2 reasons. Number one, our kids were finally at an age, they were like maybe 7, 8, 8, and 9 at the time, where they could really understand the impact that they could have on kids, and just being able to work with kids their age and to see that they're very fortunate and very blessed to have the life that we have, and that it is a privilege, and it is a responsibility of ours and for them, our kids, to know the importance of giving back to the community that we live in.
That's
and
incredible.
We've just, like I said, the city of Cincinnati has really jumped on board with supporting and allowing us to go into these schools. And I mean, we all grew up going to libraries that have like, it's almost like the white walls or the yellow walls where it's kind of boring. And you go into some of these schools and the books that they have, 30, 40, 50 years old. And they're still good books, but they're beaten up. And there's a difference in these kids walking in now, where there's a corner that's called Coach Mack's Corner, and Chris is on the wall, and there's beanbag chairs and new books, and they're excited about reading. And statistics have shown that if kids can't read at their age appropriate and grade appropriate level at 3rd or 4th grade, you know, chances of going to jail or not graduating, just all that stuff, it's sickening. But it's something that, you know, we are hopefully, you know, moving into a positive direction.
That's incredible. That's so great. I love that you guys have recognized that, because people really don't realize like how big of an impact really small steps like that can take. Like me, like I'm super into soccer. Like soccer is like my sport. I've always watched, like that's my jam. And there's a huge a hot topic about like pay to play in soccer, where these kids who probably like would get incredible scholarships, go on to have great careers, they've never had the chance because like they can't, like their families can't afford to put them in these huge like traveling teams, because that's like where the best players are grown. They're not grown in like schools, like because I feel like at least like with basketball and football, you can go to a public school and like make a name for yourself and like get seen by big universities, but it's like it's not really a thing here in the US with soccer. And so a lot of people are trying to, put in just like little practice fields in like areas of town that are super like underprivileged. Yeah. And they've seen a huge growth in just like people wanting to play soccer of every different economical level. And so I think that just little steps like that really make a huge difference. And I love the fact that you guys have seen that within your community and are taking action towards it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to help. I mean, I have friends that donate uniforms that, even if it's used soccer cleats, like we've sent that stuff over. I had a friend that went and visited Haiti, and she stayed over there for, I guess it was like 10 to 14 days and ran like a basketball clinic, and we all donated uniforms, and she took all that stuff. Like, you don't realize how much small gestures like that can mean to a community, and it's not just in other countries. I mean, we live it, we have it here.
Absolutely. How can people like me, normal people like me and Chelsea, like help?
That's what I literally wrote down. I was like, I Girl Hustle, sign up to help with your foundation.
Tell the people what they can do.
You know what? It's gosh, it's really hard because I've had a lot of people ask that want to get involved.
That's awesome.
Volunteering.
That's really great.
I mean, people really do want to be a part of it. We have been, like I said, fortunate enough to have a board that really does most of that work of like events that we have. But you can always go to our MackFamilyFoundation.org website, and it lists different ways. Obviously, donations, money donations are the biggest, but, just we always ask people thoughts, prayers, positive, like those type of things obviously help in the same way, and people giving their time. And there will be times where when we start up the back to school, there will be ways to give back there. We're going to start doing like coat drives. Donation items like that. WLKY has reached out. A friend of mine works there. She's reached out about having some type of event where people can bring new books, so that those are the books that we can donate to schools. So then the community itself, then we're not buying books, then we're having people in the community actually give those books that are being donated to a school. Nice. And a lot of these coaches' corners that we've opened have been donated. And so like, for instance, I went to Crumbs Lane Elementary, which is the first school that we opened here, the coaches' corner there. But like, there are a lot of people that maybe grew up and went to a certain school, and they'll come to our foundation and say, I want to contribute to a Coach Mack's Corner at this school. I want to give this amount of money. And that's their way of making an impact on a school that helped them when they were growing up. And so we're finding a lot of that, in our area, or in this area, that people want to give back to the community they grew up in. And that's what it's about. I mean, that's the whole reason we set out to do this foundation. So
that's so great. That's amazing.
That's cool.
Yay. Well, we have some questions that people have sent to us.
Oh, okay.
It's
awesome.
Submitted for you.
Awesome.
I'm also not going to. I'm just going to ask the questions. I'm not going to.
We're not going to judge the questions. We're just going to ask them.
Okay. First question. Louisville basketball has had a reputation of having legendary basketball coaches such as Peck, Hickman, Denny Crum, and Rick Pitino. Being from Louisville, you know that the men's basketball coach of U of L is the biggest public figure in town. What is it like to have that man as your husband?
Well, he still has to take out the trash.
I love that.
He still has to, I'm lucky because, like I said earlier, Chris really had really good parents growing up. And I think, that was something that has meant something to him for a long time, seeing his mom and dad at games, really his dad, because his dad coached him a lot in sports. Wow. And so we've had a few opportunities where Chris was able to coach the girls, like maybe 4th, 5th grade. It got way too hard. And then it becomes like the other coach on the other side. It's like, I beat Chris Mack. And it becomes something bigger than what it is. And so he he gave up that whole coaching the kids, around the 4th and 5th grade. But I don't know. I don't look at Chris that way because he doesn't look at himself that way. He still sees himself as dad.
Yeah.
And so, and like I said, our kids are the same way. I mean, our 5-year-old is just getting into understanding what Chris does. But there have been times like this year they were ranked number 1 and he came home and said, Daddy's number 1. And he's like, no, you're not. I'm number 1. He gets in an argument like a 5-year-old gets in an argument.
That's cute.
No, I'm number 1. You're not number 1. And so
That's amazing.
I think kids can quickly... you're good. Kids can quickly ground us. And so our 5-year-old still wants to wrestle with him every night. He still wants him to read him a book. And fortunately, Chris still thinks those things are really important.
Oh,
and tries to do them as often as he can because he does travel a lot.
yeah.
And they see Mom enough. So I'm always like, it's your turn to give him a bath. Because Mom's done it the last 6 nights. So you go do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember to wash his hair. Because he needs reminding. He needs reminding of those things.
That's awesome. Okay, so next question is, I've noticed your family seems like a very close-knit family. Due to Chris's job and his traveling a lot, how have you been able to, this is the balance question, how have you been able to balance Chris's work life and family life?
You don't.
Yeah, you pretty much already answered that.
You don't. I've told this to a number of people, but Amy Miller, who her husband coaches, Sean Miller at University of Arizona, she gave me the best advice. They have 3 boys. Now their boys are, I think, one's in high school, one's in college, and one's out of college. But they gave me she gave me the best advice, and it was, don't ever count on Chris or you'll be disappointed. And I know that sounds bad.
No, it doesn't.
But it reminds me, like, there have been times where Chris comes home and he'll text me like, why is there a sitter here? It's like, well, the last time I thought you would be home at 6 to watch the kids so that I could go do whatever. You weren't. And I was mad.
Yep.
And that's on me now. Like, shame on me once, that kind of.
Heck yeah.
So she taught me that, it's your fault if you get mad about it because you should know with his schedule. And it has made things 100 times better for us. And so a lot of times I do have a sitter there, and a lot of times I'll just tell him, hey, why don't you go over and check, Lainey's at Kiva, go check out the last hour of her practice. Or Haley's at basketball practice, why don't you take your computer and he'll watch film while he's at her practice. And just leave the little guy home with the sitter. Or go on home, watch film, and the sitter will stay until I get there, that kind of thing. I just learned to communicate ahead of time with him. And I will say, I don't always tell him the kids' schedule, because if he knew how much stuff they had, he would be probably disappointed more knowing he can't get to all of it.
Yeah.
And I tell him the important stuff. I tell him the stuff that I really think he needs to be at, whether it's a parent meeting at school or, our kids' confirmation is next week, but it's when he has a game. So the school worked out, and she got confirmed last week in a private ceremony, and Chris was able to be there for that. And so there's things that I have to really plan ahead for, and I don't count on him for certain things because I know he can't do it. It's not fair to know that.
That's what to say. Yeah.
It's really not. And I think, as far as like relationship stuff goes, is we grow up on like these fairy tale ideas that your man or partner, whatever, is going to be at your beck and call and be like, yes, what can I get you? Can I do all these things? But at the end of the day, they have jobs. They're people. They want to be like loved and appreciated too. It can't just be all about us.
Right.
But my husband's a business owner, and so there's nights when he doesn't get home till 8, 9 because they have to install a sign.
Yeah.
I mean, we were covering banners till like 4 a.m. last year for the NCAA championship. And I think the moment that our relationship got, I feel like the best it's been is when I was like, I have my life, you have your life, we're a team, and this is your sanctuary, so I don't want you having to come home to an angry wife because you weren't here on time.
Right. Yeah.
And then I can watch all my trash TV.
Yeah.
And like binge, and he comes home and I'm done, and he doesn't have to sit through it. And
it's good to know that he would probably rather be at home with you. I mean, like,
absolutely,
I feel that way about. I know Chris doesn't like missing the kids' games.
Yeah.
I mean, he would love to watch them every time.
Yeah.
And he just, it's just unrealistic to think that he can. And I think that's the hardest thing to accept in general about being a parent is that, and I'm 100% guilty of it because I live with it every day. My issue is because Chris can't be at everything, I feel like I have to be at everything.
Yeah.
And there will be times where I say to the girls, hey, I'm going to be late for the game, or hey, I can't be there tonight. And they'll be like, why? And I'm always like, wait a minute. Your dad misses a ton of stuff, and you don't ever question him. Like, I'm missing this one thing. I've got another thing that I got to do, or whatever. And so I have probably in the last 2 or 3 years really accepted that I can't be perfect and be at everything, and that I do need to do things for myself to be a better mom.
So what are some of these things that you do? Because I think a lot of people, like, when they think self-help, and we've talked about this, is, the cushy robe, the Holiday Inn, or not Holiday Inn, but, like a hotel check-in. I don't know why I said Holiday Inn. You can go wherever you want. I don't care.
Holiday Inn.
Live your best life.
Yeah.
I'm on a budget, okay? But, just like pampering. What do you do? Not that pampering's bad, but what would you say?
No, I'm pretty low maintenance. I mean, I think Chris would say that about me. I'm OCD, so, I really like to manage my time cleaning my house, doing the laundry. I'm very organized. And so if I'm not, I become a bad mom. And so there's things around the house that I feel like I have to get done for me to feel good about myself.
Right.
Working out. I don't work out as much as I'd like to. But my husband just got me, this is a great gift, by the way. Ooh. Have you heard of the mirror?
Yes.
Okay.
It is so, I know, that was hardcore.
Do you guys have it?
No.
It's awesome.
I've seen it.
It literally is awesome. So I have an app on my phone. I can see what classes are going to be live tonight. I can see what classes, and it's so nice. We have it down in our basement. It's mounted on the wall, and it's really cool.
Wait, they have live classes?
Oh, we have live classes. There's a camera at the top. You can cover the camera, or you can. And so, like, if you're doing yoga and the instructor sees like a move that you're not doing right, he would say like, "Hey, Christy, you need to put your arm here." Oh yeah, it's really cool.
This is like some futuristic.
It's insane.
I thought it was just like, I thought it was like, the Peloton just has like saved classes that you can I didn't realize.
No.
That's intense.
They do have a ton of saved classes.
Holy
like,
moly.
I put things that I really enjoy, like dance, kickboxing, cardio, stretching. And so it'll notify me certain classes. And you can take classes at any time of the day. But live classes are literally by instructors that are out in California, Arizona, New York.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
But it's really cool.
Forever.
So I would say, I think I'm going to hopefully start working out more because, I'll be at home. But I have a core group of friends. I'm really close to the athletic director's wife and some other, we have a good core group that, we try to go out once a month. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough.
It is a lot.
To get time to, that with people that understand kind of the life that I live, but I don't know, we don't get to vacation enough, but when we do, we
go hard.
We do enjoy it.
Ball out.
Ball so hard.
Yeah, we do enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you have had quite a few basketball accomplishments yourself. Do you guys ever, I love this question, do you guys ever argue about some of Chris's coaching decisions?
No. I wouldn't say argue, but I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunate for him that I do understand the game. And there'll be times where I say, I'm just picking a player. I saw Steven, it seemed like he missed this assignment or whatever. And so I don't know if it's good or bad that I do understand the game to that level. But I do know what Chris teaches and his system. And so I know whether there's been a ball screen that should have been hedged or should have been owned, or I know the terminology. But I've been a coach myself and been in intense situations, so I know the feeling of being under pressure. So I would never question him for a call that he made. I may say to him, I saw you switch to zone, why'd you do that, so we have conversations about it. I would say more so when he's watching film and there's a game on. I'll say, would you have done that? Or how would you have done that? Or because I wouldn't want to be attacked by him. There's a different level because we're married.
Right.
We got to sleep in the same bed.
Right.
So I'm not going to, question him in that. So I know my boundaries. I will say that. And he has enough people on his staff that are way more qualified coaches than me. So he doesn't ever really... People often ask, does he ask your opinion? And I'm like, No. He doesn't ask me who to play.
No.
He doesn't ask me who to start.
That's really
Okay,
funny.
okay. All right, we have another question here. My funnel. Okay, what fills the void of no longer playing basketball? I think I know this answer.
Well, I guess I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but watching my kids. But I don't want to say watching my kids in a sense of wanting them to do what I do. Or
Right.
I feel like because Chris and I were accomplished and we played at the level we did, that we see the other things that far outweighed, like what basketball gave us, paid for an education, the coaches, the people we got to be around, the connections we made. Chris is constantly telling his players that, like, hey, when you meet these people, these fans, like, this is your way when you get done playing basketball. These might be job opportunities down the line.
Okay.
And so, Chris and I, we've been there, done that. We don't live through our kids.
Yeah.
I would be totally fine if our kids decided tomorrow that they didn't want to play basketball. In fact, I would say I probably enjoy watching them play volleyball more. I did play volleyball, and I had as many, if not more, scholarship offers in volleyball
Really?
than basketball.
I'll be darned.
At the time, volleyball, you only could score when you were on offense. So it wasn't as fast-paced and like high energy as it is now. And so for me, basketball was more exciting, and that's why I chose that route. But I do enjoy watching them play volleyball more now because Chris and I didn't at that level. And I feel like there's a little less pressure on them.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when they walk on the basketball court, people have this preconceived like idea that they're supposed to be the best on the floor every time they step on it because of not even just because of who I was as a player, but because of who he is as a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel bad for them sometimes that they have to live in this type of idea that they're supposed to be the best at it. Our oldest one felt that pressure at an early age, and I could tell it like 4th, 5th grade. And we never put her in like AAU because of that. And she has really blossomed and kind of built into her own, which has been fun to watch since we moved here. She loves the game, but I think one day she'll be a coach. I think she loves it because Dad coaches and stuff. But and she sees the game like a coach, so that's fun to watch. But she has really kind of answered that call of like the pressure, because it's like she plays it because she loves it, and she doesn't worry about people's idea of who she should be. And I think that's hard and very mature of her.
Yeah, it
I was
is.
about
To
say,
do.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Part of it might be because she's kind of like la.
Yeah.
She's super book smart, but she's kind of like ditzy as far as common sense stuff. And so maybe she doesn't care what people think, to where our second one feels the pressure.
Yeah.
She feels more of that, like she feels more when Dad loses. Like she'll cry, she'll still cry, like, because she feels bad for him.
What a sweet little baby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She may not think that as she gets into high school, like she's got to be able to control that
Yeah.
anger and that
Yeah.
emotion, but yeah, my girls love their dad.
That's so awesome.
They love their daddy.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So
Well, at the end of every pod, we kind of give our guests a yoga session, is what we
ooh,
call it.
nice.
So, do you do yoga? You said early.
I do occasionally,
occasionally. Okay.
but
So,
it's not my go-to.
right. At the end of every yoga class, sometimes the teacher's like, okay, do whatever pose you feel like for a couple minutes. So we like to give you an opportunity if there's something we didn't talk about, if there's something really that you believe in strongly that you want to talk about, if you're like jazzed about a show on Netflix you want to tell everyone to watch, literally anything you want to talk about, this is your little moment.
Well, I would say, first of all, for shows, Hallmark Channel. I mean,
Yes.
around
Oh
Christmas
my
time, that's
gosh.
where you'll find me, right in front of the TV. I have it on all day long if I'm cleaning or whatever. It
Oh my
follows me.
That'll always put you in a happy mood too.
I mean, right?
Yes.
Chris always comes in, he's like, let me guess. The guy's name is, Chris or, whatever.
Adam.
Yep.
That's a common
And
one.
he was like, she lost her job. She had to move back home to her hometown.
Hardworking woman.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with the fact that she is not a career woman
I'm like,
anymore.
you're ruining the good moment. Just let me have it. So that would be my favorite, show I watch.
Lifetime's good. Do you watch Lifetime?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, literally, our TV is on sports or in the evening, Chris watching games. I love HGTV.
Oh yeah, Chip and Joanna.
Chip and Joanna, they're awesome.
Goals.
I mean, who doesn't love them?
I'm telling you.
And then Hallmark Channel around, like 4 months of the year around Christmas time.
I love that.
But I would say my advice would be for women not to be too hard on yourself. And I think surrounding yourself with good people, like I have, a couple good core groups of girls that I don't judge myself by them, but yet I take bits and pieces from them, what I can learn about, I admire what the things I admire about them being a mom.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who has 5 daughters, and I'm constantly texting her, and they're all her kids. Like her youngest is my oldest.
Yeah.
And so she's got 26, 24, 22, 18, and then a 15-year-old or
Those are
whatever.
like all the stages.
Yeah.
All
And
at
she's
one
been
time.
there, done that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm constantly texting her like, hey, how did you handle this? Because we're getting in the teenage years, that kind of stuff. And so I think not being too hard on yourself, and then finding the good in your other friends that, you can ask for their advice on how they, because we're all going to fail. I mean, we all feel guilty. And I think that's important just with being a parent too, because I think my kids can see that. And I never let them see when I'm frustrated with whether it's my body or, those, because I just...
That's a huge one, the whole body
It
image.
is. It is.
Gosh.
And I was a late developer, and I always tell my kids that, they're very socially kind of behind and, immature. Not in a bad way. We like them to be kids for as long as they can be kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Chris and I are always like, we're holding on to that as long as we can, because in the blink of an eye, they're out of your house. And then we're going to be stuck with that 5-year-old we got. That's crazy. And I don't know how to raise a boy yet. I haven't figured it out, but I do know he loves his mama.
Oh,
And he
hey,
tells
that's a
everyone
good
he's going to
start.
marry me.
Oh.
And so we're going to roll with it.
I love that.
I know.
I bet
His
he
mom's-
finds a lot of, does he connect with the basketball players? Are they like,
He does. He, and they're really good with him. You can always see the ones that have siblings at home.
Yeah.
Because, they're throwing him around, and he's just now getting into it. He had a couple favorites when we were at Xavier, but he was 2 and 3 at that time.
yeah.
And he didn't quite get, the whole just that their dad's players and who they are, and
Right.
that they do become a part of our family, and they come over the house now. Now he'd be like, when's Jordan? When's Ryan come to visit? And I'm like, well, they don't really come to visit.
Yeah.
They're not coming over to play with you.
Right.
But
So cute.
But yeah, he's getting there. I'm just getting him to sit in a seat at a game,
Hey,
the whole
hey.
time. That's a win.
Little
That's
wins,
good.
for sure.
Yeah.
Little wins.
So,
That's amazing.
but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
thank
coming on
you.
this podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. This
We've
is
been
fun.
so excited.
My first
Yeah.
ever.
With Girl Hustle.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Awesome. Well, do you have do you encourage people to follow you on social media? Is there anything that people can, I don't know,
I would say follow my husband. I mean,
Okay.
he's pretty funny. I mean, I do
Yeah.
have a Twitter account. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know. You can search my name. I will say it's important to know that my Christi has an I at the end.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm going to tell you a story about that.
Yeah.
I was trying to look up to do some research so I wasn't just stupid. And there is another
I know
lady
what you're
with...
talking
A
about.
Y. Yeah.
She
Yep,
has a
I
very
was-
different career.
Yeah, she's followed a different path than I have.
Yes, definitely.
You-
And we don't judge.
You'd be
you know,
shocked
she-
how many people have said that to me. There's another. Yep, it's an I, not a Y, please.
I'm aware.
Yeah, we'll let you guys Google that on your own. and
Yeah.
discover some
Yeah, we're not gonna
things that you might not
hand that
see
out.
before. And but yeah, thank you so much. We know your time is super valuable, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And as a U of L alum, I was jazzed AF about this episode. So awesome. Well, we'll see you guys back next week for another episode of Girl Hustle. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Girl Hustle Podcast. Give us a rating, give us a review. It helps us, get our name out there to people. And we will see you next week.
Bye.